Everyone, welcome back to SAT Math question of the day. Here's our question of the day. Please read it, pause the video, come back, and we'll do it. The scatter plot shows the number of housing units in 2010 and 2018 for each of 11 U.S. states. Okay. A line of best fit with the equation y is equal to ax, where a is a constant, is also shown. A point lies above this line if and only if it represents a state with an increase in housing units from 2010 to... A point lies above this line if and only if it represents a state with an increase in housing units from 2010 to 2018 greater than 7%. What is the value of A? Am I reading it wrong? But does that 7% have anything to do with the problem? Aren't they just asking us for the slope?
Yeah. I think what they're getting at is that the slope is 1 plus 7%.
Really?
I think so.
Oh.
So the value of A is 1 plus 7% is 1 and 7/100ths.
So the answer to this question is
1.07.
0.07?
That's my guess.
Oh.
Equals A.
Oh. Well, because it is a comparison between how much increase there was in as a percentage basis or as a ratio between 2018 and 2010.
Yes.
Oh, I see. So in other words, there's 7% more. Generally, on average, there tends to be 7% more housing in 2018 than in 2007.
Yeah.
And generally that's pretty constant and doesn't depend on the housing units.
It doesn't depend. That rate does not depend upon the city.
And the housing units.
Yeah, the cities have different numbers of housing units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but if you call this a fairly low number of housing units, and this is a fairly high number of housing units, the 7% holds for both the lows and the highs.
Yeah. And what you see in the diagram is this gap. The gap.
Yeah.
This gap here gets bigger and bigger. It's really tiny. Of course, doubling. So the height of that gap doubles from here to here.
Yeah.
And then from here to here it triples. So I think the gap is 7% of the common X and Y value.
Right. In other words, you're saying that this is not, if this is 200,000, then this little gap here is 14,000, 7% of 200,000.
7% of
yes, 14,000.
Yeah,
and
14,000.
This little gap here is 21,000. And this gap here
28,000.
Oh, 28,000, right. Yeah, 28,000.
Yeah.
This is 14,000. And then this
And
would
this
be
is 3 times 14, which
right,
is what?
50 something, 40 something,
52.
40 something. 28,
Well,
28 and 14 is 42.
yeah.
Now,
42.
we know 6 times 7 is 42. So it's
Yeah.
42.
Yeah.
Just a little gap, right? Yeah. Wow. Thanks for doing that problem. I would have had to spend some time thinking about it.
Yes, this is an unusual problem.
It is an unusual problem because you can't pick the slope directly off the graph. It's not practical. So you have to use that 7%. When I first read it, I thought, well, you could just read the slope directly off the graph, but you can't.
What they told you, but then yeah, one needs to recognize that that they're talking about a 7% increase, right? And the slope represents the multiplicative factor that corresponds to a 7% increase.
Yeah.
And your favorite term for this for this formula is the shopping formula, right? If it's 7% more, if you have a 7% increase in price, then the new price is 1 plus 7% times the old price.
But this is a constant slope problem also.
Yeah.
That's right. That's because there's only 1 year going on. Y is equal to mx plus b. B is 0. B is clearly 0. And the m, oh, come on, computer. This computer froze for a second. The m is 1.07.
Yeah.
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 So this is 1.07x. And that really is a 1 plus 7 over 100x. And that's the new, that y is the new, the x is the old, where the new is the old times 1 plus 7%. And so it's linear because it's only just for 1 year. Wow, so there's a lot of stuff going on in this problem. And also you could view it different ways. You could view it as a percent problem. You could view it as a linear growth problem. You could view it as exponential growth, but only for 1 year. Yeah, because it's yeah. So this is a pretty rich problem, and it is unusually asked.
Yeah.
So
well, it's exponential growth over one period of 8 years.
Right. Yes, exponential growth for one period of 8 years. Right. Yeah. So a lot of different ways to view it. Okay. So does the calculator help? We'll go through the various questions. Does the calculator help? Not really. No, not at all. Actually, unless you 7% of 7 over 100. Do you start with the guess? Not applicable because it's not multiple choice. Different from a school test. I've never seen anyone's ever seen a school test question like this. Is there a pattern specific to this problem that you can take advantage of? Not really, because the whole problem is just so unusual. And then the most important question is, what's the main idea? What did the committee have in mind? What were they trying to test to see if you knew, / what really is the key to this problem? Oh, a bunch of keys, right, Seth?
Yeah.
What would you say is the, if you were writing this test question, what would have been your goal to see if people knew what to do? People
Well,
understood.
I think it's one half of it is making your way around the context, which is not all used, like being a line of best fit, and the points that it is fitting.
Yeah.
So the question is not about the points that the line is fitting, but it's about the line. Okay, so and then they then so and so the parts of the problem that are relevant to getting the answer start with here. Align with the equation y equals x,
Right.
y equals ax.
Yeah.
This line is shown. And then it says, what's the property of this line? A point lies above the line if and only if it represents a state, but doesn't represent us. Only the dots represent states.
Okay. Little.
So a point is not representing a state. The point represents a combination of a number of housing units and another number of housing units. So a point represents a pairs of numbers of housing units. And it says, doesn't matter if it's a state, it's the point is above the line. Like here, here's a point that's above the line. Okay. If and only if it represents, I wouldn't say state, a situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Where the increase of housing units is greater than 7%. Right? So here's our a point represents some increase of housing units. And so what is it? Suppose this is the number of units.
Don't rehash stuff we've already talked about.
Hold on. This is the number of units in 2010.
Yeah.
Right? I'll use another color. This is the number of units in 2010. This is the number of units in 2016.
Well, 18, but nobody's counting.
Okay, 18, yeah. Next time period. So this dot represents that the number of housing units from 2010 to 2000, from 2010 to 2018 increased by more than 7%.
Yeah.
So a point that's on the line, like there, represents and tells you what a point on the line is. It represents an increase of the number here to the number here of exactly 7%.
Yeah.
So the line represents the y value being an increase of the x value by 7%. The shopping formula says that you encode increase by 7% means multiplied by 1.7%, 1 plus 7%, or 1.07. Yeah. And so the slope is 1 plus 7%.
Okay, you might know.
And they're asking, and the question is, what is the slope?
Right. So let's get back to what they were trying to see if you knew how to do. So they're trying to see if you understand the concept of slope, how to get it, but also in the context of a word problem where it's not that obvious how to get the slope, because you also have to understand growth and percentage growth and what the whole plot, Yeah. So they could have made the question a little bit more clear and less obtuse if they simply said the line represents a 7% growth rate over this period. They could have just said that. They didn't have
Yeah.
to. They didn't have to play with us and say, well, the points are above a 7% growth rate over the period. They could have just said the line is the 7%, represents 7% growth over that period.
Yeah. Well,
So they made it a little
just,
more
well,
obtuse.
part of the elements of SAT questions is to, to uh, is to test if the student can see through, more complicated, more complicated explanations of the situation.
Yeah.
Could see through
Right.
Additional components of the explanation,
Right.
and see which ones bear upon the question that they are asking, and which ones are not relevant to the question they are asking.
Right. Right.
Which is a sense of testing how well students can understand stuff.
Right. Yeah. So that's what
So,
must have been why. So yeah. So that's just so. What do you how do you prepare for that? You just gotta practice with the questions they ask, so get a sense.
It's there. It's a matter of you have to become educated.
Yeah.
Deal with learning, practicing, reading, and thinking and discussing questions and problems that relate to stuff that you read and stuff that you hear.
Yeah. So it's general education, general. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just sort of curious to see if they considered this a hard question. I think they probably did. So why don't we check that out? Plus, we got the answer. Let's see if we got the right answer. So here we have to go make it real tiny. Oh, wait, stop this. Make this very small. And go to the end. That's question 37, 1.07. Oh, yeah, that's the answer. 37, 1.07. Let's see how they considered it. They considered it a 37 is considered a hard question, and they considered it analysis in history, social science, problem solving, and data analysis. That's the question. Question 37, right there. 37, and that's the answer. 107 divided by 100, or 1.07. Okay, so yeah, it was a hard question. Well, it was what they considered a hard question. So I guess that's it. Joel, I have a PhD in mechanical engineering. My brother Seth is a PhD in math. We're here we try to meet every weekday to go over SAT math questions and discuss them, throw them around, discuss different approaches to doing them, also discuss what the main purpose of the question is, with the idea that if you have questions in this area, some of the insights we offer can help you do the questions that you have. As you can see, some of these questions, a lot of these questions require general education, and also being careful to read the question and piece out information from the question. So the best thing to do is practice on a lot of questions and think, basically. As you're doing these questions, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes. If you have specific topics that you're weak on, you can go to Khan Academy. They offer a digital course, of course, on the digital tests that the SAT sanctions, and you can study up on different questions, different topics there. But the idea really is to just practice, learn from your mistakes, and look at problems different ways and get from different lenses, and that helps as well. So if you have any SAT math questions, please email them to us at satmathquestionoftheday@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to do them here. And please leave comments on our videos. We take all our comments very seriously. We read them carefully, and we try to respond to them as well. That's it. Okay, everyone, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Oops.